Hey, my YouTube friends, let's talk about the preliminary hearing from today for Letecia Stauch. For you guys not following the Letecia Stauch case, Letecia is accused of killing her 11-year-old stepson, Gannon Stauch, back on January 27th of 2020 in El Paso County, Colorado. Now, Gannon's body was found in Florida under a bridge in a suitcase. So Letecia is being charged with first-degree murder and child abuse resulting in death and a few other charges as well. And Letecia, she waived her court appearance for the preliminary hearing today, which I think is quite unusual that was even approved. But nonetheless, Letecia was not in the courthouse today in court for her preliminary hearing. And her reason was basically she just did not feel the need to be there. But let's get into some of the bombshells that were released in the preliminary hearing today. Let me start off by giving credit to Spencer Wilson. Spencer was in the courtroom today, so I will be going by his tweets. Again, Spencer Wilson. So the first person that was the first witness was Jason Yoder. And Jason Yoder, he's from Santa Rosa County, Florida. He's the Sergeant of Major Crimes Unit with the Santa Rosa Sheriff's Department. On March 17th of 2020, he said he got a call from a bridge worker for a discovery of a body under a bridge. And he said the body was inside of a suitcase. Body was emptied before they got there by the Department of Transportation. They were actually in the area working on the bridge. And Macon Ponder is who found the suitcase. They were looking at the west side of the bridge, walking under it. And Macon Ponder and his partner found the suitcase. They drug it out. They opened it and they dumped it out, and they found Gannon's body. And Spencer did note at this time, Albert Stauch, Gannon's father, was in the courtroom, and he was just staring directly ahead. And Spencer also noted that things start right off the bat, just very tough details about the case. Yoder says the body was wrapped in blankets when he arrived at the scene, and that it appeared to be that of a child, a small child. Yoder says the suitcase would be on the eastbound lanes going away from Pensacola, Florida. He says there is an emergency pull-off area near where the suitcase was found. He says if you looked right down from the bridge, it would be directly underneath, and it would indicate that it was dropped from the bridge. Yonder says they could tell it was a male child based on the clothing, that he figured the child was between 9 and 13 years old. The medical team arrived and they removed the body and they completed an autopsy. He also said a flyer was brought to his attention of a missing Colorado child, and that was indeed Gannon Stauch. He was asked if it's unusual for a body to be found from another state, and he said, no, sir, that is not normal. The body was severely decomposed. The body was in a fetal position. There were efforts to take the blankets off of the body and to clean it, and you could see injuries on the body. There was a fractured skull, gunshot to the jaw, sharp force injuries to the chest and the back. There were a few cuts on Gannon's arms and a few cuts on Gannon's hands, and they were consistent with defensive injuries. And at this point, Spencer did note that Albert Stauch, his eyes were red. The room was silent except for the typing you heard and the speaking in the courtroom. The autopsy will specifically detail out how many stab wounds. The lower left jaw is where Gannon was shot. According to the autopsy, there were 2 red pieces also found. Yoder explained how they found projectiles in some of the pillows and the blankets that were inside the suitcase with Gannon. He says that the bridge is frequently traveled for people in the state or for people driving through. And then it was time for Mr. Tellini to cross-examine, and he said 1 bullet was recovered from inside the body and 2 from inside that blue shark pillow. Yoder says he saw 2 holes in the pillow but there were no exit holes. Yoder says doctor doing the autopsy says the gunshot was enough to be fatal, and that it was as Tellini asked him if the skull fracture could have been from the suitcase going over the bridge, and Yoder said she did not say either way. And then in parentheses, there's muzzle to flesh from Spencer's tweets. And he said they did not see this, so that would indicate someone close when they fired. So I guess what he's saying is the muzzle to flesh, they did not see any of that. So again, that would indicate someone was close when they fired that shot. No real details on how close the gun was fired, but it sounds like more than 18 inches. Otherwise, there would have been marking or burn from gunpowder. Yoder says no clue on indication of which was the fatal cause, but that the fatal gunshot wound and fatal blow to the head are listed. And they're trying to clear up the timeline of the attacks and say that they would not be listed if that happened after Gannon died. Yoder says the stage of decomposition was about a month when they found his body. Yoder says the body was in the suitcase for a substantial amount of time. There was body fluid leaked through the suitcase where, I guess, onto the ground where the suitcase was found. It was confirmed that Harley was traveling with her mom, Letecia, in the van, and they were asked about stops along the route, surveillance video, cell phone data, and they just detailed all of the evidence just to show that she had made that trip. And then it shows on February the 4th of 2020 that Letecia and Harley, her daughter, they get to Pensacola, Florida, and they check into a hotel. They check into the Candlewood Suites Hotel. And the map displayed in the courtroom, it shows the drop point of the suitcase and the body at 4:15 a.m. And it shows that the hotel is 3 miles from where Gannon's body was found. And they looked at Letecia's information, her rewards membership for Candlewood Suites, and it shows that the reservation was made on February the 3rd, and they checked in on the 4th. And after her and Harley's short stay at the Candlewood Suites, they moved on. They did say that they believe Gannon returned the morning of the 27th alive, and if you guys remember, there was some questions because you could see a child, which we're all presuming was Gannon, getting in the truck with Letecia on that day of the 27th. And we did see that they left their house. And if you guys also remember, I've got it in a previous video, but Gannon dropped something, and he does not bend over like you automatically would when you drop an item, and you would bend over, retrieve it. He did not, and for some reason I feel like he was hurt at this time in some way, because why would he not have automatically been over to get this item? Instead, he waited on Letecia to come out and pick the item up and hand it to him. But again, I've got it in another video. It's on the playlist that I have here on the channel. But they do say they believe Gannon did return back home, and we do see Letecia getting out of the truck on the return trip home. We don't see Gannon, but they're saying they believe he did return home nonetheless, and they believe that Gannon was killed in his bedroom. And it was asked if Harley was involved in the murder, and it was said the murder she was not involved in. So I don't know if it's worded that way because, as we now know, Harley was with her mom Letecia in Florida, and that's where Gannon's body was found, under that bridge in Florida, right down the road from the hotel that Letecia and Harley stayed in. But again, it says the murder she was not involved in. So I'm thinking maybe, obviously my thought, something else. She knew maybe after the fact. But again, just my opinion on it. And asked who was in the house the morning of the 27th, Gannon and Letecia is what was said. And asked if Harley was in the house. They said no, she was not at home. She went to work around 8 p.m. that day. Or, I'm sorry, around 8 that day. And so she was at work on the day that Letecia allegedly, at this point, killed Gannon. And the FBI agent, he said he knows Gannon's family, and it's normal to look at the victim's family after a homicide. And there's no evidence that Al, Gannon's dad, was involved. He was not in Colorado. He was in Oklahoma. It was verified through other means. His flight and video show that this is the case. And it's also said that Gannon's mom, Landon, no evidence that she was involved. And as many of you guys know, Landon does not even live in Colorado. She lives in South Carolina. And then they spoke about, it was Exhibit 39, and it was a close-up of a gun. And it was a 9 millimeter Smith & Wesson gun that was in the master bedroom, sitting on the nightstand, and DNA on the back strap and the trigger guard. DNA there matched Letecia, but there was also other DNA to Mel, and one was Al. Not certain who the other Mel was, so I don't know what they're going to try to say about that. But nonetheless, the firearm experts believe that the bullet pulled from Gannon's head was the bullet from this particular firearm. And then the Nike tennis shoes that they got from the house, the Nike tennis shoes, the blood on the bottom, it was Gannon's blood. They done the DNA testing. It was a match. And DNA done inside the shoes confirmed that these were Letecia's shoes. And then they spoke how they went through the house with the Blue Star agent to track for, or to trace blood. Sorry guys, it's getting late. To trace blood. And then they speak about where blood was found. And Hubble says they started in the garage, went to the laundry room, and the hits led them to the hallway, living room, followed downstairs, past the basement, family room, through the storage room, and then to Gannon's room. So there was a pattern, and a pretty solid pattern. There was also blood found in an electrical outlet in Gannon's room, and then blood found on the corner of Gannon's mattress, a large blood stain, light yellow to orange in color. It tested positive for a match to the DNA match to Gannon. So again, the blood on the corner of the mattress did test positive for blood. The DNA was tested and it did match Gannon's. And also carpet, they could tell it had been cleaned, but the padding under it and the cement underneath it was not cleaned. The carpet was matted and crusty, stiff to the touch, and it also tested positive to a match for Gannon's DNA. And it says that, hold on, I think this is repetitive, this next tweet. Maybe this is separate. It says that it was a corner, it went all the way through the layers of the carpet down to the hard floor. And again, a match to Gannon's DNA. So as you guys can see, it's a pattern with the blood all throughout the house. So basically that I'm assuming that it's basically Gannon being dragged throughout the house from his room, which was the downstairs basement area, up to the garage area where ultimately is where he, I'm going to say allegedly, was put into the, I think it was the Volkswagen Tiguan of Letecia's. But let me know what you guys think about these couple of bombshells that were mentioned, especially, about the part of Harley being with her mom on that trip to Florida where they found Gannon in a suitcase under that bridge. Like I said, Harley and Letecia, they said today in the preliminary hearing that the hotel they stayed in was only 3 miles from where Gannon's body was found. But let me know what you guys think about this, and I'm going to keep you guys updated in this case. As many of you know, this is why I started my channel. Gannon was the first case I started talking about, so I'm definitely going to follow this case through and give you guys the updates. But let me know what you think. Hopefully I hopefully I will not have comments turned off on this one. And as always, thank you all for watching.